Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the morning dump. It's Friday, May 22nd. I'm your host, Jose Galison, and this is the kitty of the day, Violet, one of our mamas over in our cattery over here. Now, if you like what you see over here on the morning dump, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications. That way you can see when we're going live, and that way you can see when we're dropping new videos, whether that's if you like seeing that just every day or just like seeing the kitties. Either way, subscribe. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day. I'm all right.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to the white light.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
Crazy evil.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a good one. We have plenty to get through today. As always, we start the show off with our Icebreaker Content, and I got a couple stories for you guys there. I have one that snuck up on me a little bit. We're going to learn some forbidden lore about John Hamm. And then I've had a bunch of people tag me in the past 24 hours in some, I think, Fox News segment. People think somebody may have been wearing, some sort of big old spy mask or something. No, we'll dig into that. Then after that, we'll go over to the foreign policy roundup portion of the show. Honestly, looks like, in a good way, a little bit of a slow news day on that side of things, but we definitely have plenty to dig through. And then we'll get into our main named segments of the day, the first one being the Accelerationist Scourge. I'm going to look a little bit into the manifesto of that recent San Diego shooting. We talked about that on Already Dead the other day. If you guys want to get spruced up on it. And then also talk a little bit about a story we touched on a while back with Accelerationism 764, Kyle Spitz. That may ring the bell for a lot of you guys. But we'll be retreading over all that. And then we're going to get into Epstein's co-conspirator victims as our final segment. And might be a little bit of a shorter show today. I say that though, but that's those episodes when I yap the most. So we'll see how that works. But we got Epstein's co-conspirator victims. I got a few articles to go over with you guys. A few threads, a few different co-conspirator victims. Are they co-conspirators? Are they victims? Are they co-conspirator victims? It's confusing, but we'll dig into that. There's a little bit more news on the Epstein front. I did see just before we started, I saw they dropped some new alien files, but I mean, it was too late. And I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll talk some alien stuff by like Monday. We'll find out if there's anything going on. I'll process all that information over the weekend, see if there's anything worthwhile. Probably isn't, really. If anything, if we cover the aliens, the commentary will be like, why are we covering aliens? We shouldn't be talking about this dumb shit. But whatever, we may. We'll see where that leads. But with that, I do want to remind you guys how this works. And you never know if we got a new person in here. This is typically meant to be like a live stream sort of experience, interactive sort of thing. Like typically Monday through Friday around 11 a.m. Eastern, not always on time though. So make sure you hit that bell. But some people like to catch this back, re-listen to it, do the playback, whether that's on, video player, or if you want to listen to it on podcatchers, in an audio sort of format. That's your prerogative. And a lot of people don't want to, if you're not part of the live chat experience, not many people want to listen to the chat banter. Totally get that. Now, I do keep my chat interaction to the end of each segment, and I timestamp the segment. So if you do see me, start, hey, what is he talking to the chat? What is this? I want the info. Then just go down to the video/podcast description, and whichever one you're on. Most of these things have hyperlinks these days, and just go down there, and you'll see I'll have put timestamps in usually within an hour or two after dropping this, and then you just pop on right over to the next one. You'll get right on past it. And then on the flip side, if you are somebody here for the live experience, then you can get in on the conversation. I do try to give everyone at least one obligatory good morning. I like to talk to you beautiful people. And then after that, it's just kind of, depending on how we're managing time, what's going on, the degree to which I'll interact with a chat. But it really just comes down to after that first good morning, you got to catch my interest or catch my wallet, maybe get a little bit lucky. You can super chat if you do want to support the show, and I will definitely make a point to try to bring up your chat if you do so. So just drop a super chat if you'd like to do that. We'll bring that up. Or if you want to support the show, in a regular sort of way and get other perks, we got the Patreon QR code right up here, patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. But with that, I feel like I'm forgetting something, some sort of housekeeping, but whatever. Yeah, that's all of it, right? Yeah. Just drop a super chat if you want to get in the conversation. It kind of depends on how many people are in the chat and whatever a given day. But with that, let's go ahead and get into some icebreaker content. Let's start off with the John Hamm story, because this kind of caught me by surprise. Like, holy shit, what? Apparently, John Hamm has some skeletons in his closet. I think that might be a little bit of an understatement. I happened across one of these. Somebody was vague posting on Twitter. And I saw this tweet right here where it's side by side of like an older John Hamm and a younger John Hamm. The actor from, I never watched it. Mad Men. I've heard it was good. Never watched it though. A lot of good memes came out of that though. But we got John Hamm here, an older picture of him, and then younger one of him next to it. And somebody says just John Hamm. I don't know. I'm assuming just one of those generic viral post of some sort, that goes about. And then somebody quote tweeted it. Somebody named Dipshit Usagi says the first pic is probably pretty close to when he dragged a kid around by his nuts with the claw of a hammer, lit his pants on fire, and then hit him so bad it ruptured his kidney. Which, vague posting, what are you talking about? So I went immediately to the replies, to the comments, started digging around and said, what the fuck? I did find somebody who looks like they use a little AI action here, but whatever. We're only in the we're in the Gen Pop slot portion of the show. We can do a little AI action. But somebody here, I Draw Retard, says, "Oh my God," and then shares this little excerpt. Says John Hamm from Mad Men hooked a claw hammer under a frat's pledge's balls and led him around by the nuts during a brutal hazing incident. This happened back in 1990 when he was at the University of Texas in the Sigma Nu fraternity. According to the lawsuit from pledge Mark Allen Sanders, Hamm and other frat brothers beat the guy, including paddling him hard enough to allegedly fracture his spine and damage a kidney. They set his pants on fire. Hamm specifically hooked the claw end of a hammer under the pledge's genitals and paraded him around the room like a dog on a leash. Hamm was charged with hazing and assault. The fraternity chapter got shut down, and the charges were later dismissed or resulted in probation. He's downplayed it since it's a bummer of a thing that got sensationalized. Classic charming TV actor with a dark frat past story. Their internet loves bringing this one up. Now, I will say this does sound horrifying at first glance, but then as I'm reading, I'm realizing defining the specifics of what exactly happened really does matter. Now, obviously it's an assault. Now, I don't know, though. When you're talking about, hazing in college, it's a little bit let's be real, these are a lot of times they're, submitting to it themselves. So, I don't know, it's a murky territory to degree of, hey, is this, should this be criminal, whatever happened here? There's a lot of different factors going on all at once. But I think the real key thing here for me of is this go into basically maybe not necessarily unforgivable, but into an appalling level is depending on what hooking the claw end of a hammer under the genitals means. Now, because you hear that, at least I hear that, and that sounds like some horrific like shit we would hear coming out of like Israel or not Israel, but like Gaza. One of those sort of crazy stories, some crazy torture. Somebody killed by having their balls being dragged by their balls to the street or something. As I'm reading that, I'm more thinking that perhaps maybe it could have more something along the lines of, let's say he had on jeans or something and he hooked it to like where the seam is or something, because I have a hard time believing he actually legitimately like hooked it to the guy's actual balls and then dragged him by his balls, because I feel like there would be some sort of emphasis on what a horrific, gory, obscene, like this guy required all sorts of this and that. I mean, maybe we're missing context. I mean, I'm not going to spend much more time on this story, but I guess that would be the key moment or the key thing that would really make a difference for me. But either way, kind of a wild story. John Hamm once beat that fucking living shit out of some dude with his homies back in one of these gay little clubs that they do in college. Glad I never got into that. I did a semester of college, and I flunked out after the first semester. But the time when I was there, I did party at some frats, but I never joined any of them. I feel like that's the move. I guess little tips for people in college out there. Don't join the fraternities. That's fucking gay. Just find a cool fraternity and just kind of hang out in the periphery. Make a few friends over there. Like it's almost like they're weird social cliques too. So there's all different frats. So I remember I used to hang out with the nerd frat. There was like a nerdy group of guys, and like they would have their parties. There'd be free alcohol. There'd be chicks that show up. And these are chicks that are showing up to a nerdy frat party. So it's like if you're a generally decent looking guy, you're cleaning up. You're doing all right. So just a little pro tip out there. Don't join the frat. That's gay. Why would you want to be the low man on the totem pole? Like, that's dumb. That's really go just find, kind of hang out, be a gadfly, find a scene that works for you, and then insert yourself as the outsider, the sigma, not some fucking gay little beta who's begging to, well, maybe if I suck your dick just right, I'll end up in the alpha category. Like, is it really worth it? I don't think so. Anyways, or maybe I'm wrong, because let's be real. Who knows? Maybe John Hamm leveraged those connections he made in college, and here he is. Because there is definitely probably there's some aspect to that. Just in the same thing as there's, if you want to be a Freemason, I'm sure that probably helps you out in business and stuff like that. But either way, I don't know. Interesting. Now you guys know something about John Hamm. I was cursed with this knowledge. So are you. Moving on, let's jump into another thing. Another one of these stories that you guys, I had a bunch of you guys share this with or tag me in this. Apparently people are thinking this guy right here, you can see on the right, he was recently interviewed, I believe, at Fox News. We're going to play the clip and kind of look it over here in a moment. So if I get something wrong, we'll correct it in a moment. But here he is, and you can see on the picture I brought up, they have like circled around his neck. You can see like almost looks like a little flappy doodle, like kind of where a mask would be. So let's dig through and they show another picture of him in another time, and obviously now they're showing, oh, look, his neck doesn't look like that. He also looks kind of different. So let's see. Let's dig into this a little bit more. Actually, give me one moment. Of course, StreamYard's being whack. So give me one moment. Let me bring it back up. Take it down. Bring it back up. See if audio is working. And now it is. All right. Here you go. Let's look at this video. Tell me what you guys think. I got to be real. I guess I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. I'm kind of burying the lead. I really should just play dumb here and just be like, oh, I don't know. What do you guys think? This is wild. I think maybe he is wearing it. I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys know. I've looked into this a little bit. I mean, we're going to go through this together. And a lot of people online are very convinced this guy is wearing a mask. I don't think he is. And I guess I'll give you my reasoning here in a moment. I understand why people see this and go, wow, this looks weird. It looks like he's wearing a mask. But anyways, we'll come back to this. Let's watch this. Make sure I got everything right. Good. All right, let's do it. Here you go. Let's watch just look at his little necky doodle.
The president has time on his hands. He controls the narrative, he controls the strike capabilities, and he knows that the policy he set with the blockade has had short-term and long-term effects on the regime and the people of Iran. So he's been very astute in leveraging that time. And so I don't see it as negotiations. It really is capitulation. The president's made it very clear. You will not have a nuclear weapon. The president has time on it.
All right, so there's the video most people are talking about here. So let's get another look at it. We can see, let's look at this. And maybe just look at another different angle. I don't know. Maybe this one will give us a different idea, give you a different vibe. I like this one zoomed out a little bit more. Let's watch this one.
In the eyes of the Iranian people, but the world global economy, which they're holding all hostage to, the more everybody comes to realize this is all about the IRGC. At the end of the day, we're going to have to need a government in Iran that not only hands over the nuclear material, stops threatening the Straits of Hormuz, but quits exporting the Islamic Revolution throughout the region, causing the collapse of Lebanon, Gaza, Yemen, Syria, and as well as...
All right, now let's do another one. I found this other one that's also like this side-by-side sort of thing. Now this is, I think it said the News Nation, which I think might be one of Fox's little shows they do during the day. Now the key thing here is what a lot of people may not realize, a little backstory here, and appreciate you out there, hello fellow bots, bringing me this additional context. This is from him. He said, this former admiral grew up in Iran. Dad was training the Shah's military, and he was a member of JINSA, what is JINSA? Let me look. I've seen that before. I just don't remember it offhand. JINSA, Jewish Institute for National Security of America. So that's what that is. I knew I'd seen that somewhere before. Formerly named the Jewish Institute for National Security Affairs, is a DC-based nonprofit and think tank. So kind of in the same family as like APAC stuff, although this seems more think tankish as opposed to, a lobbying group. So anyways, now back, what is he going back to? He's saying he's the guy behind the mask was essentially so obviously he's assuming there's a mask here. The guy behind the mask was essentially talking to Congress before the war powers vote, that'll be our first story here when we get into foreign policy here in a moment. Surprise, surprise, it got shot down, but there was a war powers vote, and this was right before it. So that does add a little bit more import, makes it, gives a little more motive why someone might wear a mask or something like that. So now, but on the flip side, I'm like, this guy, unless this guy is dead somewhere and they're trying to leverage his identity to use it for this, I mean, as he just pointed out, the guy sounds like you wouldn't need to steal his identity, assuming he's alive. Like, he would just do it. So, I mean, maybe there's something we're missing behind the scenes. Also, he doesn't really necessarily sound like a figure that, like, why would you want to fake this? Because, like, it's not like he's, like, an incredibly convincing character. Like, he's clearly, I mean, he's a good character to bring up if you're trying to run cover for the establishment, if you're trying to, sell this war in a sense, but, like, on a very lesser degree, because he is someone who already was aligned with this. I mean, I don't think, for people in the know, from what I'm looking at, it doesn't seem like he'd be an overly influential figure that would swing people. Like, yeah, he'd take your base and really, like, kind of cement them in their current position. But anybody who would, like, you're trying to convince that's not already in your, thinking in the same lane as you are, I don't feel like he'd be the kind of guy to really convince them. Now, that would be somebody more along the lines of, like, a Tulsi or something. That would make sense. If this was like Tulsi, if there's like a Tulsi face mask on Fox News or whatever this is, then it might be more like, okay, that totally makes sense. Maybe they really couldn't get her to say this. Who knows what crazy blackmail is going on behind the scenes, whatever. So it does seem weird that they would even, like, why? Like, it just seems like a little bit of a ridiculous premise. I mean, the premise that they would use masks to impersonate someone's not that ridiculous. I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if this has already happened at some point in our lives, if we've had some talking head on TV for one reason or another not actually be who they're purporting to be because they're wearing something along these lines. I believe it's possible. Why not? I mean, I've seen examples of this before. The CIA has done some pretty wild shit like dozens of years ago. So the idea that they could do that now, it's not that unbelievable. So, but if you are looking like motive wise, it just seems shaky. It seems a little shaky to me. I will admit it looks weird. So in a certain sense, you almost think like it makes sense because you're like the timing of it, but like the identity they're taking over is someone who would have likely done it anyways, and probably wouldn't have swayed many people who weren't already in this of this belief already. So it just seems like a weird overplaying of the hand for not enough payoff, if that makes sense. So, but with that, let's look at this side by side. There's a side by side clip we got here. That was shared to me by the same guy. So let's put them next to each other. And then I'm interested to see what you guys think. But, I mean, I get it. Here's another one a lot of people have shown, and he does look very different. You look at this side by side. They do kind of look like different guys. But let's watch this, and then I'll give sort of my reasoning why I think that is the case. Let's watch it.
A life support machine that keeps you asleep. You try to move your arms, but your skin just starts to creep. Pull the wire out, it's a skeleton upside down. Pull the wire out, don't listen to the clown. Don't listen to the clown. A life support
Okay, now I saw some people that were saying, like, oh my, how are you going to fake? Like, they're saying even, like, the verticals are off on this or whatever, that, like, the dimensions. I actually got to be real. As I'm looking at this side by side, people are using this for a, excuse, or not excuse, for, like, look, these totally, I don't really see it. I actually think pretty much all of this is easily explainable by lighting. Even the weird neck effect. I think if you guys go back and watching these videos over again and pay attention to how that line moves, it's not like going up and down with his neck as he's talking. It's staying in this. I mean, it moves a little bit, but in the way a shadow would move. It's not staying with that skin, if that makes sense. It's mostly staying pretty stationary. There's a little bit of movement in the way the shadows kind of, but to me, it looks pretty obviously a shadow. I think he's dealing with studio lighting in one and on the other. So that is what the difference in the, he looks way different. Look at let's look right here. Let's look. Actually, let's put them side by side like this. I'm getting a call. Give me 1 second. Sorry, my bad. All right. Sorry about that. That was my kid trying to scam me at school. Although I'm like, I'm torn. I know. Whatever. Not to get off kilter. I guess we should probably at least get through some of this stuff. Maybe I don't even know what I would do if I abandoned midway right now. The kids, I don't know. Whatever. I'm not trying to burden you myself. My kid's trying to act like they're always trying to scam to get out of stuff. So I can't tell if she's completely being legit here or if she's pulling my leg. She's saying she ripped her pants, but then the next moment she's saying, but it's not that bad. So then being like she's like, oh, don't rush or anything. It's not that. I'm like, what do you mean then? So I feel like I'm going to get there and it's going to be like some small weird phrase somewhere and be like, I told you it ripped. Because anyways, whatever. That threw me off. But my kids is like they're not, like, if it was really bad, she'd be freaking the fuck out. So the idea that it's like, she's like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm like, I feel like you're fucking with me and you're really making a mountain of a molehill. But I don't know, whatever. Let's at least get through. I don't know. I'm trying to I don't even know what the move would be if I were to abandon ship here, or even if I should, because kids be fucking with you. And I'll be really pissed when I get there. It's not that bad, but whatever. Sorry, I may end up bailing here in a moment, but whatever. I guess we'll at least get through this mask talk. This is be the worst if we cut off right here 20 minutes into nothing but rambling about icebreaker stories and whatever. Whatever. All right. Let's. All right, I forgot where I was even at and all of that. Sorry. My apologies. But yeah, anyways, I guess just real quick, still talking about this. Back to the look at these two side by side. I do think it's the same guy. I think it's the lighting. Yes, it kind of looks like there's some weird recessed eye things going on, but the lighting's clearly very different on both. So it seems like the lighting's coming more from in front of him, whereas in the other one it's coming from above and from the side. That's why he's getting the reflection off of his head. I think it's the same guy. And even when you put them side by side, it actually convinced me more. So, but anyways, I'm interested to see what you guys think. Let's roll through the chat. We may end up bailing on this stream and just right now and say, fuck it. I don't know. I guess I could come back and finish it later. It just seems weird. I put in all the time, prepped all this stuff, and then I got to bail 20 minutes deep. But let's say some good mornings. Good morning, Tom33. Good morning, Fire Pixie. Good morning, Neil. Good morning. You know what? Actually, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna text my kid right now, and I'm gonna say, send me a text of the rip, and then that way I'll be. It's there's no reason why she shouldn't be able to send a text of the rip, and then I can then make an actual legitimate determination if she's just fucking with me or not. Because there's so many different ways you could rip your pants and stuff or just and not be that bad. And the fact that my kid's not freaking out makes me feel like it's not that bad. So there we go. Sorry. But all right, back to the chat. Good morning, Neil. Says, I'm at work, so I'll just listen. Have a great day. 3-day weekend if you got one. Props, Jose. Oh, that is a 3-day weekend. I guess I could just abandon this and then just save all this for I don't know, one of these days this weekend or something and whatever. Anyways, moving on. Good morning, Martin Fly. Long time no see. Got a new job and actually have to work. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Afa Jerez says, hi, still your woman from the Netherlands. Hoi, ik ben Anamiak. It's fucking doing some magic or something over here. Good to see you here. Glad to see my global female audience. It's a weird world that we have this. Good morning, Tom or Daz. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Adam. Adam Urig says, thanks, dog. Worked all night. Slept to wake up and listen. Hell yeah, here you are. Good morning, Tilla Spook says, we are early. We're not early. We are on time today. We are on time. Good morning. Good morning. Tom says, it does look like a mask, but it could be a fake clip. I don't think it's a fake clip. I mean, it's gone viral enough to where I feel like that would have been the easiest one to show that it's fake. I mean, you could go back to the other stream and look at it and go, oh, that is the actual video from there. So that would have gotten I feel like that would have gotten proven wrong. Good morning, Mr. Wokereich says, that's Johnny Gosh. Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Marnamac. Good morning, Retardo. It says, fading heads at my barber loft, but I can't miss a dump. Good morning, fam. Good morning to you. Yeah, Tom said, now this would make sense, for the mask, the reasoning of doing a mask for this guy. He says, guy could have just died of natural causes, and they happen to have a CIA agent that looked and sounded close enough, so it's just out of convenience. But if they had one that looked close enough, if you mean look close enough to put on a mask and sell it, and the other thing, too, is I almost brought up this master thread for us to go through that was, dispelling it, but it just seemed like way too much, and I feel like most of the stuff I can explain quickly, but they got, weirdly scientific with all the things that I just said. Even though to be clear, I was already thinking that already. It looked like some weird lighting effects from the jump for me. I thought it was kind of weird. A lot of people were making a big deal out of this. I kind of get where they're coming from. But anyways, the apparently most of these weird spycraft things, the little flappy doodle goes lower. And he's literally wearing a collared shirt. So, I don't know. That would be, just really low production Fed work, I think, if they're making the mask and they're just keeping it right at the fucking right at the neck. That's going to pop out. I just can't imagine they would go through that level of trouble to do some sort of espionage and be like, oh shit, we left the flappy doodle out. Good morning, Black Eye. Good morning. Good morning, OG Matzo Balls. All right, guys, moment of truth. Let's check out. No, she didn't even respond. She just said, can you come, just trying to get me to get her. She didn't respond. So one more. Let me try one more time. Sorry, guys. I know this is great content. I didn't choose this. So Tried one more time. Well, this is on her. I'm not pulling the ripcord until I get some sort of solid, like, this is the thing from her. So sorry, guys. We're gonna keep trudging through. We're gonna keep on trudging through. I'll try to keep this talking to my kid banter to between segments. So for anyone who does listen to this later, sorry for assaulting your listening experience. I know this is the sort of stuff you guys want to hear. My logistical issues going on in the background. But man, if this had happened later, it's like I could have pulled the ripcord and at least gone through like one segment. We haven't even really gone into the show. This is the warm-up to the show. All right, let's get into foreign policy. I guess at the very least, we can get through foreign policy. That way I can feel like at least we did something substantive. Probably won't be the greatest experience for most people here for the streams. This will be shorter, but whatever. Support the show. Hit that like button if you're popping in. Help a brother out. Let's get into some foreign policy, and then I'll give you updates if we're going to keep on trudging through with this. I need proof. I'm not just taking it on the kids. They've fucked with me too many times for this to be just me take their word. So, oops, my bad. Well, that's partly my fault. 1 second, let me fix something. I said send me a text of the rip. I should have said send me a pic of the rip. There we go. Sorry, I know, dead air. Everyone loves that. So, all right, there we go. Okay, we're pressing through. Let's get into it. Let's get into foreign policy coverage. Let's talk about that war power stuff that we were just talking about a moment ago. That's what this guy was going on to stump for. The guy everyone thinks was wearing a mask. So if that was the case, then I guess congrats, feds. You somehow pulled it off by getting some obscure guy to wear a mask. You did it, I guess. I don't know. So House Republicans blocked vote on Iran war powers resolution that was expected to pass. House Republicans on Thursday canceled the vote on a war powers resolution to end President Trump's war against Iran as it became clear they didn't have the votes to defeat the measure. The delay means that the House won't take up the bill until after lawmakers return from their Memorial Day recess. Republicans just prevent the House from voting on a war powers resolution because they knew it would pass. Representative Greg Cesar wrote on X, Republicans can run from Trump's disastrous war, but they can't hide. Thousands are dead and gas and grocery prices are up, and progressives will not stop demanding votes on war powers resolution until the war is actually ended. Caesar added, the last vote in the House on an Iran war powers resolution was narrowly defeated in a 212-212 tie as momentum to pass the bill continues to grow in both chambers of Congress. Tuesday, the Senate advanced an Iran war powers resolution in a 50-47 procedural vote. Though the legislation still needs a final vote before the Senate version would be sent to the House. Representative Gregory Meeks, who introduced the House War Powers Resolution, said the effort was receiving more support from Republicans because they're facing pressure from constituents facing rising gas prices as a result of Trump's war, which is extremely unpopular among Americans. The cancellation of the vote comes as the U.S. and Israel could restart the full-scale bombing campaign at any time, as the U.S. continues to enforce the blockade against Iran. An act of war that the War Powers Resolution would direct Trump to end. The bill isn't close to gaining a veto-proof majority, but its passage would mark a significant rebuke of the president and would make it more politically difficult for him to escalate. Trump administration, sorry guys if you hear that cat meowing, that is Jeff. What is there, a door closed? Yeah, it's Jeff at the door. Sorry. I'll ignore him for now, and then when we get to the foreign policies portion, I will open the door. That way he stops meowing. We'll see how persistent he is. So Trump administration officials have been maneuvering to circumvent the 1973 War Powers Act, which was passed to rein in the executive branch's disregard for the Constitution's requirement that Congress has the sole power to declare war. The law includes a 60-day deadline for the president to end any unauthorized military action or obtain authorization from Congress, which has been falsely reinterpreted to give the president 60 days to wage war without congressional authorization. The 60-day deadline for the Iran war expired on May 1st, and the administration has tried to claim the ceasefire should have paused the clock, but the blockade means the U.S. military is still engaged in hostilities across the country. According to a report from NBC News, the Pentagon is considering renaming the war with Iran from Operation Epic Fury to Operation Sledgehammer, and the White House believes giving the conflict a new name would reset the war powers clock. But all the hostilities are clearly still part of the same war the U.S. and Israel launched on February 28th. So that's the latest over in Iran news. It's just kind of still a stalemate. So we'll see. In Congress Congress and the Senate, they don't seem to be helping much, but they do seem to be teetering ever so closely. So there is maybe something will happen. I am not holding my breath. Over in Cuba, though, things aren't looking too wonderful over there as well. We have Rubio saying a chance of a peaceful agreement with Cuba is not high, which, let's be real, I think we all kind of knew this, but it still is not looking great. So Rubio told reporters on Thursday the chances of reaching an agreement that's peaceful with Cuba are not high, comments that came after the U.S. indicted a former Cuban president, setting up a pretext for a potential attack. They're not going to be able to wait us out or buy time, Rubio said, referring to the Cuban government. We're very serious. We're very focused. As I told you a moment ago, in the context of Iran, the president's preference is always a negotiated agreement that's peaceful. That remains our preference with Cuba. I'm just being honest with you. You know, the likelihood of that happening, given who we're dealing with right now, is not high. So, not looking good. I mean, we talked about yesterday about how they've indicted the 94-year-old Raul Castro, the brother of Fidel Castro. He also was the leader for a period of time. So, looking like they're trying to create some sort of pretext for some sort of ordeal with Cuba. Looking very much to be following the playbook they put in place with the Venezuela stuff. So, not looking great. Kind of following all the same patterns. So we'll see. Hopefully something happens there, but I'm not much too hopeful. Now over in Israel, they're back to their murdering ways. I know yesterday they had somehow not murdered someone, but they're back to murdering. In Gaza specifically. They're always murdering somewhere, but every now and then there are places in which they don't murder, which is pretty rare. But today is not one of those days, not in Gaza at least. Israeli drone attack in northern Gaza on Thursday killed a 13-year-old boy as the IDF continues its constant violations of the U.S.-backed Gaza ceasefire deal. Medics told Reuters that the boy, identified as Jude Mohammed al-Duweik, was killed when an Israeli drone dropped a grenade in the town of Beit Lahia. Several other Palestinians were wounded in the attack. Al-Duweik was one of at least 5 Palestinians killed by Israeli attacks in Gaza on Thursday. According to the Quds news network, 2 Palestinian aid truck drivers were killed by Israeli forces west of the southern city of Rafah. The Palestinian news agency Wafa reported that another Palestinian was killed in southern Gaza by Israeli fire near Khan Yunis. In central Gaza, a 26-year-old woman identified as Fatima El-Zahra Ramzi Almani was killed by an Israeli drone attack near Deir al-Balah. So we got a 13-year-old boy and a 26-year-old woman. I'm sure they were up to crazy, wicked, dastardly terrorist ways. Gaza residents also told Reuters in recent days Israel has renewed the practice of ordering forced evacuations of areas before bombing them, with witnesses reporting at least 3 such warnings in the past 2 days, targeting 2 homes and a tent camp. Gaza's health ministry said in its daily update on Thursday, which it releases about midday Gaza time, that it recorded the Israeli killing of 2 Palestinians and the wounding of 27 over the previous 24-hour period. Number of victims are still in the rubble and in the streets, and ambulance and civil defense crews have been unable to reach them so far. So, more murder. So keep in mind they're in a ceasefire. Astounding, right? But apparently they have currently killed 883. That is now the toll since the ceasefire in October of 2025. So what is that, 7 months? 7-month ceasefire that they have somehow killed almost 900 people. Kind of oopsies, I guess. That's. I thought we were ceasing fire. I guess we weren't. There was still some fire. Oopsies. We'll just margin of error, I guess. Right? I think it's pretty clear there is no real ceasefire here. Now, a little update. I know we talked about the other day. The United States was actually getting involved in sanctioning some of the flotilla people, which we've talked about this in the show before. The Gaza flotilla. There's like this regular thing they're doing where, every so often these like influencers and stuff are sending these flotillas over to Gaza, trying to break the blockade or break the, essentially get aid into Gaza. And every single time the Israelis have, interfered and, kind of approaching crazy levels of violence. Like it's a tenuous situation each time. Well, there's been some more that's happened since then. the latest round of flotilla participants have been abducted by the Israeli government. They were taken in, and when that happened, apparently this was a big story yesterday. Apparently, Ben-Gvir went and recorded all sorts of humiliating videos of them, which they did the last time. This was we covered this a while back on the first big one, the one that Greta was on. I think there's been multiple other ones since then, but there was the Greta Thunberg flotilla, and there was all the the humiliation that was done by the state of Israel for that one as well. And I don't know the specifics of what exactly happened. We're going to cover that, but from the videos that were being sent out, like the forward-facing, like what Israel was putting out and stuff, I actually felt like the first one with Greta felt worse. This last one, it was bad, but I'm like, not as bad. But for some reason, this one just really, really lit a fire in the international community and kind of created an ordeal, a little bit of drama. And I guess drama is not the right way to put it because it's actually a big deal. But I mean, hell, all sorts of, up to the point to where Israelis were, Israeli officials were, scrambling over themselves to put out oh, this doesn't represent us, yada, yada, yada. Keep in mind, Ben-Gvir is one of the members of their cabinet or whatever you call it over there. So, or what do they call it? Not whatever. You know what I mean? He's one of the ministers over there in Israel. I think he's the minister of security. I know he runs the prisons. So. That's why he's being tied into this. But with all that happening, I guess this has resulted in them all getting released. The backlash, the outrage out there. So let's get a little bit into this. It's under widespread condemnation for its vicious treatment of flotilla activists. By the way, I just noticed this is by James Mark Leas. I don't know if he's a new writer, but I've not noticed his name over here at antiwar.com before. So this is over at antiwar.com. But the Israeli government released and deported all 430 participants it had abducted from sailboats earlier in the week. They arrived in Istanbul around 10:30 a.m. This was yesterday, Thursday, May 21st. On Tuesday evening, Israeli forces finished illegally seizing the Lena, the last of the more than 50 boats of the global Samud Flotilla, and the Freedom Flotilla coalition as they were sailing towards Gaza international waters. The heavily armed Israeli commandos illegally forced the activists into a prison ship, which brought them to the port of Ashdod in Israel. Al Jazeera reports on the avalanche of criticism produced by the posting of the video by Israeli National Security Minister, hell yeah, I nailed it, Itamar Ben-Gvir, showing him taunting activists who were kneeling on the floor with their hands tied behind their backs. Al Jazeera's reporter Nida Ibrahim said that ongoing deportations were the fastest Israel has ever carried out as it scrambles to contain the PR damage caused by Ben-Gvir's video. Al Jazeera further reported that several nations, including France, Canada, Spain, Portugal, and the Netherlands, summoned Israeli ambassadors to their capitals to express their outrage. Meanwhile, European Council President Antonio Costa said he was appalled by Ben-Gvir's behavior, calling it completely unacceptable. Italy has demanded an apology from Israel. Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani contacted the EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, requesting that sanctions against Ben-Gvir be discussed at the bloc's next meeting of foreign ministers. In an effort to contain the outrage expressed by these governments, Benjamin Netanyahu issued a rare rebuke to Ben-Gvir. Hell yeah. That's looking so. However, at a news conference, Huwaida Araf, a founder of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition 2010, said that it is not just Ben-Gvir and the condemnation is not enough. What Ben-Gvir displayed is a true face of Israel, a colonial apartheid regime. I think there's something to that why they freaked out so much this time around. I know we've covered in this show that recently they've had the spate of stories that have come out about their rampant systematic abuse, including sexual abuse of the most vile sorts occurring in their prisons, and essentially they're just little hellholes over there. And there was a New York Times reported on recently, and then got accused of blood libel, and now Israel's talking about suing them. So I think that might have something to do with that. And now you have these people being abducted by Ben-Gvir and being humiliated. And like I said, while I don't think it looked like it was as bad as the first time around, maybe it was. I think this contributes to the response, and that they were already. It's one thing to weather that before. It's another thing to weather these accusations as you're oh yeah, and we do way worse to the Palestinians. So not a good look. Tiago Avila, the leader of the global Samud flotilla, noted that countries that signed the Geneva Convention and the Genocide Convention have an obligation to take action. Issuing words is not enough. Action to stop the genocide is needed. Both flotilla leaders said they will continue mobilizing until Palestine has achieved self-determination, freedom, and dignity. The flotilla is one tactic, said Huwaida, one piece of a greater puzzle. There will be other tactics too, including land mobilizations. Now let's read a little report on what these people supposedly experienced. So here's deported flotilla activists alleged sadistic sexual abuse and torture in Israeli captivity. So I'm curious if they're saying this happened to them or if they're saying that they are alleging that these are also happening, like the claims from the New York Times. So like kind of like, hey, we didn't even have it that bad. These are the sort of things that are happening in Palestinian prisons. So let's read a little bit, get an idea here. It says flotilla activists who were abducted and jailed by Israeli authorities while in international waters have reported being subjected to sexual abuse and torture while in Israeli captivity. Some 430 activists, no, it sounds like they're claiming it happened to them, who were held after Israeli forces raided the Gaza-bound global Samud flotilla were deported to Istanbul on Thursday evening. Footage showed activists arriving at airports clad in gray prison tracksuits and keffiyehs with their fists raised as family and supporters greeted them. Upon arrival, the activists reported being fired at with rubber bullets, beaten, and subjected to sexual assault. I'm going to need a little definition of what you mean by sexual assault here, because I feel like most of us fill in the blanks and assume rape. Like, did somebody just flick her nipple? Like, what happened here? Italian journalist Alessandra Montavani, who is among the deportees, told reporters at Rome's Fiumicino airport that he and others were taken to Ben Gurion airport in handcuffs and with chains on our feet and put on a flight to Athens. He said the Israeli soldiers beat us up, they kicked us and punched us and shouted, "Welcome to Israel." Okay, well, Jesus. Miriam Ezaim from the Israeli rights group Adala reported that one of the activists was forced to strip naked and run while guards were laughing. Well, that's not cool. It's a Miriam, too, so that's a girl name. Oh, no, they said one of the activists. It wasn't her. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess we're more horrified if it's a girl that's happening to than a man. It's just kind of funny when men are streaking. Obviously, it would still be horrifying in this situation, to be clear. One activist said in a video interview their hands and feet were bound as she was dragged by Israeli soldiers, adding the cuffs were so tight that my hands lost feeling. They laughed all the time, super sadistic, she told reporters. They took off my shirt, took pictures. Jesus, okay. Mysterious all night long. Okay, geez. Australian activist Juliet Lamont said she was tied with cables, water tortured, and sexually assaulted. I kind of wonder what she means by that, but I mean, they are. Hey, dude, come on, Jeff, go away. Stop fucking with the camera. Sorry, guys. Jeff just hopped on here and moved the camera. Sorry. Everything's conspiring against me to to fuck with my podcasting experience today. People had broken rims, were tased in the face, and injected with unknown sedatives. Photos shared online appear to show activists who have sustained injuries from the alleged beatings. Brazilian activist Tiago Avila, who was detained by Israel during a previous flotilla operation, published a video in which he alleged that activists were raped by Israeli soldiers. Shit. He said that there were many cases of sexual violence on the prison boat on the way to the port of Ashdod. Jesus Christ. Adala said that Israel's entire operation, including the unlawful raid of the aid vessels in international waters and the systematic torture, humiliation, and arbitrary detention on the activists on board, constitutes a flagrant violation of international law. Jeff, go. God, I'm going to have to move this cat. He's totally about to move the camera again. Jeff. Okay, sorry. Well, that's the end of that piece. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe more to come on there. Some pretty crazy accusations. I'd like more details for sure. Let's check in on Lebanon. As I said, they're not always murdering. I didn't see anything about any deaths, I think, in the past 24 hours in Lebanon. So that's insane. But, that should just be par for the course when you're dealing with, a ceasefire. But Jeff, damn. All right, I'm going to have to move Jeff. Sorry. All right, sorry, that was the final straw. Jeff kept moving the camera. Here we go. All right, we're back into it. And you hear him yelling. He's mad at me. But we got reports of looting over in Lebanon. So if they're not murdering, they're stealing. So if they're not going to murder, we will cover the stealing. Although I am thankful they reduced the murder. So that's always a good thing. With a ceasefire in Lebanon that Israel continues to violate, Having been extended another 45 days last week, Israeli commanders are finding themselves increasingly unclear about why exactly they're still in Lebanon, whether the ceasefire is meant to be complied with or designed to fail, and indeed what purpose the further presence is meant to serve. The commanders see Israel as in something of a tangle where the U.S. is opposing them advancing any further, but their policy is to remain in southern Lebanon, destroying villages and clashing with Hezbollah fighters. This adds to the controversy surrounding an ongoing series of reports from Haaretz in which Israeli soldiers report that the primary thing they're actually doing inside Lebanon is looting and destroying Lebanese villages. The soldiers say they view looting as an unofficial but primary mission of the ongoing occupation of southern Lebanon. Haaretz has repeatedly reported on the ongoing problem of troops bringing loot back across the border, saying Israeli military leadership is not holding looters to account, inciting troops who say they assumed it was acceptable behavior. One reservist described the systematic taking of goods out of Lebanese villages and bringing them back to the Israeli outposts so they'd be waiting for the soldiers when they went home. Haaretz ran a similar report last month describing the widespread looting of Lebanese territory. Since Israel invaded southern Lebanon in early March, the Lebanese Health Ministry has reported some 3,089 people have been killed in the war and 9,397 others wounded. This includes hundreds of both women and children. And we haven't checked in on Syria in a while, so here's a story from over in Syria. Apparently they've captured 2 men in some raids they've been doing, and by they, I mean the Israeli troops. Israeli troops are carrying out a growing number of operations in southwest Syria in recent days, with 2 young men reportedly captured on farms in the Quneitra governorate on Wednesday, and yet more operations happening Thursday. Israeli patrol set up a checkpoint in Quneitra on Thursday and was searching random passerby during the afternoon. Another patrol crossed into Dara governorate, though so far there were no indications of any incidents there. Israeli forces also reportedly shelled farmer fields in the Tel Almar area of Quneitra. The fields were damaged, though the IDF did not comment as to why the fields were being targeted in the first place. No casualties were reported in the attacks on the fields, but given these are agricultural-heavy regions of Syria, the attack on the fields at all necessarily damages the economic sustainability of the region. Israel has notably not issued statements regarding any of their recent operations inside southern Syria, never commenting on the detention of locals, nor explaining to what end they're shelling farmers' fields. Israel invaded southwest Syria in December of 2024. After the ouster of the Assad government, they occupied the demilitarized zone between Syria and the occupied Golan Heights. And while they've continued to move deeper into Syria since then, they've largely not occupied additional territory. Instead, they have pushed for the establishment of a new demilitarized zone between the old zone and the rest of Syria. And I have pointed out, I do think people should at least keep this in the back of their mind, because I do have a feeling one of these times when, the circumstances of the political chessboard dictate that Israel needs to dial back or at least go into a stalemate sort of situation in one of their given fronts they're in, that will be the moment. One of those moments, I wouldn't be surprised. This seems like prime for an uptick in one of those such moments. Because anytime that happens with Israel, then they obviously pick up hostilities in some other region. So keep an eye out. I have a feeling this will be the next one. But with that, let's roll in the chat, say some more good mornings, and then we will get assuming what's going on. I don't know. I haven't seen anything back from the kid. Apparently it wasn't that bad. No picture of it. It's like, hey. But we'll see. I think we might cut out the Accelerationist Scourge topic. I may just lead with the Epstein story instead. Maybe do the Accelerationist one on next week sometime. That way, and maybe cut this episode kind of short. That way I can dart out of here. But we're at least going to, I think, try to get to the Epstein one. And considering as we use that as a thumbnail, it'd be weird not to. So I think we might lead with that. But let's roll through the chat. Say some more hellos, some more good mornings. So, yeah, see, Marna Max. See, this is exactly my thing. She said, I told my mom a bird pooped in my head when I was walking to school to get out of going class. Yeah, exactly. This is the sort of shit they will always be like, oh, it's so bad. Oh, it's so... Like, whatever the thing is. Oh, it's so... And it's just like, yeah, it really... Exactly. Like Mr. Wokereich said right here, trying to scam you like a dirty J. Like, exactly. Like, oh, my God. And then you get home and they're like, oh, hey, what's up? So, yeah. Marmac stream got some good interruptions from Kid and Cat. Yes. Good morning, Boomer Sooner. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, King David says, you've been working overtime lately. Glad to see you. Glad to see you too. Said also, hit the like button for a guy. Hype the shit and sub if you haven't. Yeah, I always forget about to mention that hype function on YouTube. So if you are seeing me on YouTube and you do see the hype option available, hey, use it. It helps a brother out. It helps hype it. I don't exactly know how it works, but let's do it. Good morning, Tower Gang NPC. Tom says they claim sexual assault, but it's actually just titty twisters. Yeah, exactly. Good morning, Q Bertamo. Good morning, good morning. Well, still hear nothing from the kiddo. So, like I said, though, I think we're going to lead off with the... Let me rearrange some of these real quick. We're going to lead off with the Epstein stuff, I guess. We'll have to come back to the... accelerationist stuff. Maybe we'll end up doing the acceleration stuff. If I get a text from my kid and then he shows me a picture and it's like not bad at all, then I'll be like, you can wait, and then we'll do the accelerationist topic just out of order. So with that though, I guess let's pop into our next segment, into the Accelerationist Scourge, not Accelerationist Scourge, my bad, into the Epstein's co-conspirator victims. Dig a little bit into that. While everyone's focusing on aliens, we'll focus on one of the things that matters, one of the things they're trying not to have us focus on over and over and over again, the Epstein stuff. So, one second. Oh, okay, there you go. My computer just did a weird thing. But let's get into this. Let's get into the Epstein stuff. What kind of triggered this topic for me today is coming across this. Apparently, Sarah Kellen, one of the alleged co-conspirators of Epstein, has come out and given her side of the story. So let's watch this little TikTok video out here, and then we'll cover some more about her and some of the other co-conspirator victims out there.
Jeffrey Epstein's longtime assistant, Sarah Kellen, is speaking out, and she says that she was not Epstein's co-conspirator, but rather his victim. In a closed-door interview with the House Oversight Committee, Kellen said she, quote, worked for and was sexually and psychologically abused by Jeffrey Epstein, according to her opening remarks shared with CNN. Kellen described in graphic detail the sexual abuse she says she endured, saying, I want this committee to know that the abuse happened on average on a weekly basis and was at times violent. It included Jeffrey entering my room in the middle of the night and putting his fingers inside me, waking me up from my sleep. It included an occasion in Palm Beach when he trapped me in the gym by lowering the metal hurricane shutter, blasted the music so loud that no one could hear, choked me, and violently raped me. She said for years, leaving Epstein's grip was simply not an option. I had nowhere else to go. I had no money, no family, no education, and no sense that I deserved any better. Kellen is a controversial figure. She was named in 2007 by law enforcement as one of Epstein's potential co-conspirators. But some say that the story is much more complicated, that even if she had helped Epstein, she was also his victim. Kellen told the committee that she had no idea at the time that she was going to be named a co-conspirator in Epstein's non-prosecution agreement. I was not told this was happening. I was not asked about it. No one from law enforcement ever spoke with me, ever heard my side, ever asked me a single question.
Which that is a key thing there. She is one of the named people in that agreement that gets brought up ever so often when people talk about Epstein. The agreement. Who was it? The guy. God, I can't remember his name. Acosta, I think. Yeah, it was Acosta. I believe the one who set that up. The non-prosecution agreement or whatever that included others in there. And I believe when the Epstein files dropped recently, they were like redacted. And I think this was the one that like they accidentally dropped the unredacted one and then pulled it back and then dropped the redacted one. But hey, it's too late. The internet caught your ass. I think that was that one, but yes, I think that was when it was revealed that she was one of the co-conspirators, I believe. Maybe it got revealed before that. I mean, a lot of people I think were already hip to the idea that she was some sort of co-conspirator, but I think that's when it really kind of got revealed between her and a few other people. But here's Amber Woods. Figured to get her take on this. Someone who's written a decent amount about the Epstein stuff. Shows up in my feed quite often for it. She says, Sarah Kellen is an Epstein co-conspirator that testified that she is a victim/survivor. Now, one thing before we do dig into this more, I do think it's worthwhile mentioning this was like a weird foreshadowed timeline a while ago by many people out there, particularly, many of the ilk of like Anna Paulina Luna, like those sort of characters that were signaling that, hey, you might see here soon some people coming out claiming to be victims when they are in fact co-conspirators. Now, I'm a little bit of two minds for this because this could be obviously a convenient. This can be a convenient obfuscation for the establishment, and it also could be a convenient obfuscation for people like Sarah Kellen, assuming she is a legitimate co-conspirator, and we do not want to grant her some victim coverage or whatever here. So I can get why. I can get why the establishment will lean into that. It's a good way to kind of throw information into doubt, and it is a hard place to be in because I am torn on how to feel about this. I mean, so I think this is, you got to process this in real time and, think about this. I've seen, definitely biased, charged thoughts on this, both sides of it. People who want to come, kind of save a hoe type, vibes of come to her rescue, that she was some victim. And then I've also seen, the opposite impetus. Typically, this is something I feel like you see from lots of women, where they almost are almost violently fuck you to these sorts of people, which I can totally also get that too, especially coming from a woman who may be a little bit more touchy to people claiming, sexual violence or these sorts of things when that is not the case, because it does take away from people who do legitimately do that. So, that is the sort of thing that a woman would react to quite aggressively. So I could totally get where a lot of people are coming from on both sides of this. But at the end of the day, I think we kind of don't know. And so this is why it's important to parse the information and figure this all out, and kind of keep an open mind as you go through it. But moving on, she says, I've been covering the Epstein files with a survivor-centered lens relentlessly for the past 10 months. Sarah Kellen was an adult when she became part of Epstein's network, so I do think that is key. Obviously, adult could still end up in this situation and feel coerced, but I just feel like, if this is something you entered into adult, you feel like it requires a pretty high level of evidence that you are experiencing some sort of overt coercion as to why you're here. Especially, it's one thing when these girls come into these networks, as teenagers, and then you see them now in their early 20s, that, being part of it. Who was God, I can't think of her name. The one, I don't have anything on her today, but the one who's the pilot, I'm going to look it up real quick. Epstein's pilot, girlfriend or whatever, that'll probably show up real quick. Was it Nadia Marcinko? A Nadia Marcinko, I think she actually got bought from her parents in some Eastern European country when she was 14, 15, 16, something like that. And then she went to go live with Epstein. Looks like she almost certainly into her early 20s became part of I think she may have been one of the ones mentioned in the agreement as well. Don't know that one for sure. But either way, she very clearly became part of the network. She's another one of these characters. So, but she got subsumed into it in her teenage years and seemed to have been basically literally bought by Epstein. Now, obviously, it's a complicated situation where you become an adult and you kind of lose that umbrella of you're a victim. It doesn't cover you as much, but you can totally have more sympathy for somebody like a Marcinko type character. Now, somebody like Sarah Kellen, I gotta be real, this is kind of hard to really sympathize to more if you're an adult. Now, maybe there's more information that can make me more sympathetic. Hell, we were watching that video, and it's it sounds horrifying, the stuff they were talking about that happened to her. But if you flip it on the other side and you're let's assume this is actually a voluntary adult relationship, it's what was he talking about? Doing slippy fingers in the middle of the night? You're let's not be crass, I guess, too much, but anyone who's been in an adult relationship, I guess, if you've been married for over a decade, your wife might get mad at you if you do something like that. But especially if you're still in the honeymoon period, let's be real. As many a days you wake up and your fingers are in places and, and then it's usually a pleasant surprise. So my point being is it is some degree of oh, he did these awful things to me. And you're did he? I know we don't have this ingrained assumptions since, you're a minor. No, you're an adult, you're capable of consent. So now the question comes in, were you consenting? If you were a minor, we don't have that one. So, it's not looking, I gotta say, not looking good for as I'm working this through in my head for old Sarah Kellen here. She says, it says Sarah Kellum was an adult, or no, Epstein himself reportedly referred to her as his best recruiter of girls. Survivors described how comfortable she appeared with the environment Epstein created, recalling how she would strip to swim in the pool and sexually provoke Epstein in front of others. She also allegedly participated in the sexual abuse of some survivors. Multiple survivors have described her as part of the early machine. Now, there is obviously something we could be missing here that would make her, more of a legitimate victim of sorts. I'm open to hearing it. There's could be coercion of others or coercion that we don't know of, but so not looking good. It says Kellen was one of Epstein's assistants, so she scheduled massages, took part in sexual stuff, and was named as Ghislaine Maxwell's accomplice. She has never been arrested or charged. She was protected by Acosta's plea agreement. Not everything is as it seems. She said, and then I guess she plugs her book here, The Illusion Machine. So I guess it's available for pre-order for those interested in that. But so here's one of numerous Epstein's co-conspirator victims. Let's check in on another one. This was one of his last girlfriends before his so-called suicide. You got many people may have seen this video that went about of Epstein dancing with some lady, and they're redacted, and it's like kind of gives you this horrified like, oh my God, what's going on here? Well, spoiler, that was actually his girlfriend at the time. Now, many of us, we saw this when it dropped, and you see the redacted woman. You go, oh my God, the implication here is they're redacting victims. No, this was literally somebody who was in the plea agreement, Karina Shuliak. So, like, this is one of they're literally redacting the perpetrators, the suspects, which they weren't supposed to do. And hell, the implication was supposed to be if someone was redacted, it's because they were a victim. So, but anyways, I'll just jog your memory. Here is that video. Now, like I said, in the original that was going around the Epstein files, completely redacted, the top part, and she has a slight figure. A lot of people fill in the blanks. You're like, oh, this could honestly be someone in their teenage years. It's not that unbelievable. No, it was in fact Karina Shuliak. So a little weird. They're doing this sort of thing. Like, why, as this person asked, why does Bondi blur his public girlfriend? This is who he actually gave all of his islands, his house in New York City, the Zorro Ranch, the Palm Beach estate, his Paris house. He gave her all sorts of diamonds and $100 million in cash. This was his 10-year girlfriend. And yet, for some reason, the DOJ, Bondi's DOJ, Trump's DOJ, decided it made sense to redact her image. Now, here's Amber Woods again. She says, why are Epstein co-conspirators being protected and in some cases treated as survivors? This is Karina Shuliak, and she is 36 years old, originally from Belarus. She remains in the network and inherited the majority of what belonged to Epstein after his death. She says, the deeper I investigated the Epstein files, the less Shuliak looked like a girlfriend, and the more she appears deeply embedded inside Epstein's operational world. Says she reportedly met Epstein in 2009, immediately after his release from jail in Florida through a Russian contract in Minsk. According to reports and court filings, Epstein coached her on entering the United States and later arranged a sham marriage with the help of his network so that she could gain citizenship. Image of Shuliak and Jennifer Kalin after their wedding right here. So he set up a gay wedding for these two. That way he could get them in the States. This is one of the scams he would run. When Columbia reportedly rejected her dental surgery application, which that's another angle we could totally lean into one of these days, all the dental stuff. A lot of weird dental stuff going on. Epstein donated heavily to the university. She was later accepted and graduated in 2015. Isn't it funny how that works? Shuliak was reportedly assisted with visa and dental licensing pathways to the U.S. Virgin Islands while inside Epstein's orbit. Former U.S. VI First Lady Cecil D. Jong, who worked for Epstein, the Virgin Islands is what the U.S. VI. So this is a lady that we've played this show, the one that he was literally doing in real time, texting her while she was doing some sort of hearing, and you can tell like by the literal, like she's basically saying exactly what he's saying in the text, and that was revealed through the Epstein files. That was a fun one, but that was Lady Cecile Oh, no, that was Cecile de Jong. She has been identified in reports and court filings as helping facilitate pathways for Shuliak and others connected to the network. It says the most overlooked part in this, the files show Shuliak appearing in communications involving logistics tied to Epstein's properties, scheduling, and art and furniture management and movements, not distance from the operations, but inside the ecosystem even after Epstein was sentenced. The records inside the Epstein library also suggest social closeness between Shuliak and Eva Dubin, which that's another one of Epstein's prior girlfriends. She's also married to like some billionaire now, and she glows quite a bit. Birthday wishes, shared communications, a clear hierarchy, internal emails where both are CC'd together. The same time, Shuliak worked for Southern Trust Company, Epstein's U.S. Virgin Islands entity that processed massive sums through Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan during years now under scrutiny in court. After Epstein's death, Shuliak was named as the person to inherit significant portions of his estate, including Zorro Ranch, and later oversaw the sale of Little St. James. But there is reason to doubt the properties were ever Epstein's alone. They were network infrastructure. Each property was shared space people moved through, controlled environments. The public still wants to frame the Epstein story as one monster acting alone. The files tell a different story, interconnected ecosystem of money, institutions, immigration pathways, elite universities, shell entities, logistics, and carefully managed relationships surrounding the largest and longest running scandal in American history. So these co-conspirator victims seem to abound, although I would say with Karina, I'm open to this lady of being a victim of some sort at some point as well, because we may be missing pieces of her history. Could be a Marcinki, or I already forgot how to say her name, but the girl I was talking about earlier, the one blonde that he took, the pilot broad that he took, bought at like 15. Who knows? Maybe Karina has a similar story and we're just not aware of it. So with that, let's get into our final Epstein co-conspirator victim. We're being a little bit silly with this one, but I thought this was going to be the last thing we covered for the day, so I thought it'd be kind of a fun way to go out. It still might be. We'll see. I got to check my phone here when we go to break with the chat. But here is a piece over from metro.co.uk. It says Sarah Ferguson's had friends with benefits relationship with disgraced rapper Diddy. Obviously, we're being a little silly with this one. Obviously, we're being a little loose with the classification of Epstein co-conspirator victim. Obviously, the joke here is he's a victim having to sleep with Sarah Ferguson, which you guys can see the photo here. That is Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew, now Mr. Andrew Mount Windsor or Mountbatten or whatever the hell. This was his ex-wife, the ex-wife he lived with for a long time, and they seem to be embroiled in the Epstein network together. They have an odd relationship as well. She's kind of called Fergie around there, but she was obviously involved. There's lots of emails with her and Epstein back and forth. Well, according to metro.co.uk, I guess it was Diddy's job to hold down that fort. So he was doing the prince's work because the prince didn't want to do it. So got to get Diddy. In his book entitled Andrew Lawney alleges that Diddy and Ferguson first met in 2002 at a party thrown by Ghislaine Maxwell. Now that was 24 years ago. So this is Sarah Ferguson now right here. So I mean, but this was 24 years ago or 22 years ago. So, or no, 24 years ago. So maybe it was a lot better back then. I don't know. Following this meeting in 2004, the pair began what one of Lawney's sources call a secret friends with benefits relationship that continued for several years. The book, an excerpt of which was published by the Daily Mail, claims the pair would meet in hotel rooms costing $50,000 a night. That Combs bragged about slamming Ferguson. That is not one you brag about, especially when you're an internationally famous rapper. Representative for the rapper, who is currently serving a 4-year prison sentence, has now addressed the claims, telling the Mirror, "There are so many important and monumental events happening today. This utterly ridiculous gossip isn't one of them." A source close to Ferguson told The Telegraph that the former Duchess of York denies the allegations. This is absolute fabricated nonsense, blatantly untrue, and yet another false allegation from him, their source said. Lawney is standing by his claims, telling the Sunday Times his evidence came from several people and that he had no doubt about his sources. Now, I think this Lawney guy, if he's who he's thinking of, he's done a bunch of like historical things on like the Prince Andrew family, or the royal family and stuff, and he's actually not one that really tends to get caught up in the salacious sort of stuff. It's just that like he kind of got dragged into it. So he's actually kind of like a bit of a snooty historian in his own way. So, and I know a lot of the Epstein information that we've gotten out there in the zeitgeist is actually, funny enough, came from him by extension of information that dropped there. And apparently he's gone through like painstaking stuff, having to take certain things out of his books because of he's got legal issues of making all these different claims, and he's actually pulled quite a bit of stuff. So, anyways. So just saying, this guy, his stuff has come up quite a bit, and he's actually seemingly kind of a little bit of a snooty guy when it comes to the academic side of things, historical side of things. Isn't really a gossip rag sort of guy. So, and even then, he's like pretty stringent about the sort of stuff he even allows to get out due to having to be concerned about legal problems. So, just throwing all that out there. As I stand by it, it's fully sourced with former employees of P. Diddy and Sarah Ferguson. He said the excerpt also claims that Ferguson introduced daughters Princess Eugenie, 36, and Princess Beatrice, 37, to Combs. So I wonder what introduce means there, because that's gross if it's where my head went. Furthermore, it alleges that Ferguson took Eugenie to one of Combs' parties when she was 16 years old. Oh, that is fucking weird. That is weird. Yeah, it's definitely not A-okay to be bringing your 16-year-old daughter to your smash buddies, sex party. That is weird. Sean's parties were wild. The royal staff member told Lonnie for the book. The fact that she brought Eugenie around was alarming. Diddy was reportedly obsessed with the royal family, and a former Bad Boys Records employee claimed he once heard the rapper say he could not wait until Fergie's daughters come of age. Ugh. Weird. Reportedly, Combs' own perfume, Unforgivable, was inspired by Ferguson and how she liked a man to smell. In May last year, Combs was tried for sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He was found not guilty in all but 2 transportation charges. He was given a $500,000 fine and sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in prison, which he is currently serving. Case attracted widespread media attention, especially around the allegations that Combs coerced multiple alleged victims into sex acts known as freak-offs. Ferguson, meanwhile, has faced her own controversies, most notably around her friendship with the child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Leaked emails showed Ferguson continued to email Epstein after his conviction, despite publicly stating she had severed all ties with him. While the extent of her relationship with Epstein was revealed, several charities for which Ferguson was an ambassador distanced themselves from her. In 2025, when her ex-husband, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, had his royal titles removed, Ferguson stopped using the Duchess of York. Metro's contacted her. Hasn't heard anything back. But with that, let's roll in the chat. That is all for our coverage of Epstein's co-conspirator victims for today. I'm sure this topic will probably come back up again, so be on the lookout for that. With that, let's roll into the chat. Say some more good mornings, and I don't know. I still haven't got a text, so I mean, maybe we'll say goodbyes, but I think we may just knock out the last segment. But let's roll the chat, check in on you people, and then I don't know, maybe we'll do another segment. Maybe we'll get out of here. We'll see. What do you guys want? Let's check in. Yeah, here's Tom says Jose actually in time for once. Just nonstop interruptions. Yeah, I know. Good morning, Bug Fights. Good morning. Qbert saying it's N-word Friday. Okay, cool. Guys, light it up. N-word Friday. Let's do it. Martimax says, true, I've woken up to my consensual lover's bones in the butt crack, signaling it's go time. Yeah, doesn't necessarily rape, but like it's a lot of context here. Let me see what else we got here. Good morning, Murder, Death, Kill. Says dental plan. Lisa needs braces. Appreciate the support. Guys talking about guns in the chat. What sort of guns you're gonna get? Nice. All right. Well, I think let's just fuck it. Let's go through. Let's get into our last segment of the day. I think we're gonna actually make it through and maybe still get out of here early. Let's cover the latest in the scourge of accelerationism. So I got a couple of pieces to go through with you guys. Let's get through it. To start off, let's dig a little bit through. There was that recent attack in San Diego. It was the synagogue, or not synagogue, it was a mosque. I think I may have accidentally plugged this in the promotion as a synagogue, but my bad, a mosque. There was an Islamic center, actually. Same thing, mosque, Islamic center. But that was shot up the other day. And initial reports were they were a trans couple of sorts, which I think it actually was a trans couple, is my understanding. But with that, everyone immediately went to binary brain and went, oh, well, herder must be a lefty. The extreme trans doing extreme trans stuff out there. And the manifesto came out, and it's looking to be a little bit more complicated. But anyone who's been around along the ride for this show for any period of time will know, well, that's kind of predictable for the sort of things we pay attention to here. Accelerationism, this is right up their alley. These are the sort of weirdos who do this sort of shit, just hate everything. And it's not really, you can't really peg them as left, right. If anything, at least aesthetic-wise, they're probably a little bit more right. So trying to pigeon them whole as just some sort of left-wing, some sort of culture war nonsense that's spilling out into the streets is not quite the right way to look at it. So with that, here's Gaughan's Face Like the Sun. He says, according to the manifesto, we are now supposed to believe the trans couple that showed up at the San Diego Islamic Center yesterday was not trans, but incels. Yes. Hated women. Yes. Hated Islam, but not Muslims. Yes. Hated black people. Yes. Hated all immigrants. Yes. That's what accelerationism is here, pal. Hated all immigrants, hated all gay and trans people, hated Trump. They were not MAGA nor right wing. Openly called left to shoot Trump/Vance, and one of two identified as left wing and claimed to be Christian. I mean, pretty much damn near like the majority of the stuff just listed there. Yeah. Check for accelerationism. And some of that stuff you're also like, you also got to, give a little bit of room for the accelerationists are kind of a little bit trolls as well. So the things they say they believe, or that you may intuit they believe from things they're saying, a lot of times they're just to throw you off and to fuck with you, or because it's some sort of troll or whatever. So even him claiming to be a left wing or claiming to be a Christian, even that may have been just goofing around. It says, also hated Jews. So another thing they would totally do. They would totally do exactly that. If this doesn't, so really they're just trying to almost do the culture jamming thing, where they're essentially trying to aggravate the culture war. They're mostly trying to make this shit go live, so far as PR wise, like go far and wide. And by hating everyone and coding everything in like culture war language that would irritate both sides, you end up with this retarded conflagration of the left and right arguing whether this was the left or the right. Meanwhile, it's not really either, and the whole point, the whole thing of you guys doing that is kind of the majority of the point. But with that, let's go a little bit through this. I don't think we're going to read all of it because it's like 75 pages, but at least get a little bit of an idea here. Here's Amy Reichert. She says, I have possession of the 75-page manifesto of the San Diego Islamic Center attack. Turn notifications on. He blames everything on the Jews. Broken clock is right twice a day. I'm just being silly a little bit, obviously, somewhat. Wink, wink. So here, starting off, says the New Crusade, Sons of Tarrant. And then we see a little bit of a black sun symbol. Then also, what was that? The cross eyes or the bullseyes looking type thing. Son of Tarrant debut manifesto. Continue on. It says accelerate your hate. So really, literally off the jump. Acceleration. Misanthropist Cell, as it says, by Caleb. You see a little image here of some sort of, goon-looking guy with swastika eyes, kind of vaporwave vibes going on here somewhat. But all right, let's get into it. He says, I want to start off with some words from a few of my heroes. Why won't somebody do something? Why won't somebody do something? Why don't I do something? The spell broke. Why don't I do something? Why not me? If not me, then who? Why them when I could do it myself? It was there, I decided to do something. It was there, I decided to take action, to commit to force, to commit to violence, to take the fight to the invaders myself. To take a saying from a film, I see all this stuff going on and I don't see anyone doing anything about it and it pisses me off. To take a saying from my favorite film, even if my life is worth less than a speck of dirt, I want to use it for the good of society. Okay, that's interesting. I have no choice. I'm not in the position to alone go into the ghetto and fight. We have no skinheads, no real KKK, no one doing anything but talking on the internet. Well, someone has to have the bravery to take it to the real world, and I guess that has to be me. I will give it so far, we're only a couple paragraphs in, I will say it's a little bit distinct somewhat from some of the other accelerationist screeds I've seen before, because a lot of the attacks before were just somewhat random for the most part. It seems like they weren't really, it's not that they like literally were targeting that one thing, whereas these guys actually do seem to be more like actually like the whole idea was that, hey, we are going after these minorities or whatever. Whereas the other ones were just like happy to be taking out people, basically. I mean, they may have targeted something depending on the attack, but I think it was more of a way to elicit outrage in the aftermath than it was really so much as actually being goal oriented and like taking those out. But sounds like that this is actually what they're going for here. So maybe a little bit of a distinction. I don't know. Finally, I thought to myself, perhaps there's a chance that we can combat this. Perhaps maybe there's a chance that we can take control and prevent our genocide. So kind of leaning into white genocide type language. Maybe we can combat the hedonistic, nihilistic, and individualist insanity that has taken control of Western thought. I then found other fighters like Patrick Crucius, Anders Breivik, Dylan Roof, and John Ernest. These men fought for me and had the same goals I did. It was there I asked myself, why don't I do something? Finally, I felt awakened. It was there I started to think about committing to an attack. To commit to violence, I would follow Tehran's lead in the attacks of so many others like him. No longer would I just accept our replacement. No longer would I just accept our genocide. No longer will I willingly serve the people who are trying to end me and my race. I would have to take the fight to the replacers myself. These feelings they felt are the same I feel now, and their words truly spoke to me. Feels that every day now I see things getting worse in the world. It makes me sick to my stomach and enrages me beyond belief. I always find myself saying something needs to be done or someone needs to do something, and nothing ever happens. And nothing will ever will if we don't make something happen. I can no longer in good conscience just sit idly by and expect someone else to be the one to fight back. How could I possibly expect others to do what I myself am unwilling to do? Then it hit me, I've got to do it. Why shouldn't it be me? Why don't I just do something? If not me, then who will? So now I believe this is my turn with many before me and many more to come to fight back. Then here we go. This is probably the last page we'll read of this. And you guys can go check this out. I'll give this a retweet on my page so that way you guys can go check out the rest if you want. It says, everyone has their own idea of who is to blame for all the wrong in the world. Well, the title of this part of the manifesto, by the way, is The Universal Enemy. They will say it's the government, the elite, the rich, the politicians, the 1%, the left, the right, the capitalists, the communists, the Illuminati, the fags and the trannies, the immigrants, and many more. All of them can be traced back to be caused by one group, the Jews. It's the Jews. It's the Jews. It's the Jews. It's the Jews. The Jews across all of time have been behind an extremely disproportionate amount of the world's problems. Hey, by the way, just real quick, YouTube, just throwing it out here. This is their words, not mine, as I'm saying this. Do not hit me for hate speech again. I know this is the sort of stuff I may say jokingly sometimes, but this is the synagogue shooters. This is their words, to be very clear. So they've been behind an extremely disproportionate amount of the world's problems, whether that be from war, famine, exploitation of children, rise of degeneracy, infighting of peoples, political killings, the separation of family, the departure from the church, the white race's replacement, mass immigration, central banking systems, and so on. It's always been and always will be the Jews. There's no moderate option to this problem. They'll always rise back to power or do the same again whenever you exile them to. For any sane man seeing all this, the only logical solution would be just to, them all to final solution, basically. I guess I probably could just say that, but I'm not gonna lie, a little concerned that we're flying close to the sun here for terms of service, considering YouTube's basically run by AI at this point. Spreading information and therefore anti-Semitism now compared to then is very easy. The further you go back in time, the more difficult or even impossible it was to spread information. The only way is you could find something out there from word of mouth, messages going from city to city. Okay, well, all right, well, we're going to cut off there. Let's skim through that. Let's just kind of look around, maybe see like what other titles, just kind of scroll through here a little bit. I gotta say, this does kind of feel like this could have been written by AI or something. So I don't know, whatever. Scrolling through, seeing if there's any more. This is a pretty long screed here. Here you go. What are your views on religion? I think that's interesting. The only good religion is Christianity. Okay, so I guess doesn't sound like. I mean, maybe this could be a troll, but it's nothing about it is apparent. He says the worst and most deplorable religions are Judaism and Satanism, which are the same thing. Huh. What are your views? I'm a Christian eco-fascist accelerationist. I believe the only way to the liberation of the white race is through violence, sabotage, and revolution. I believe we need the white masses to realize we are not at fault for the failures of the other races. I believe we need to accelerate the collapse of modern society so that we can rebuild into something better. Okay, well, he does seem to be of a slightly different variation than many accelerationists, although considering himself one. This Christian eco-fascist one is a unique flair on it. It seems like he's actually, instead of just his ideology be I hate everyone, his ideology is that I hate everyone except one cutout. So interesting. With that, let's move on. Let's get into, this is we're looking at the latest in accelerationist violence with this. Well, let's get into where, this channel right here, where we started getting into it, and I think when really the rest of the world started paying attention, and that is the case of Kyle Spitz. He was a 7'6" child abuser. Well, recently his dad, Mike Spitz, has made the news with our friend of the show, Ken Silva, writing a piece on it where apparently Mike Spitz was sentenced to 70 months in prison yesterday for tampering with one of his son's victims. And the sentencing memo reveals a long history of drugs and other problems. This is going to give us a little bit more context to this story we covered ever so long ago. It's been quite a while, but I'm sure this will give us a little bit of an update in this for those who weren't here when we were covering it. Now, those who want to dig into it more and also dig into accelerationism, the ideology around it, kind of where it came from, how it's essentially originated from things like O9A, and from there has become this like viral ideology and has presented itself in all sorts of awful, cancerous ways. Then you can go check out my playlist on YouTube. I believe it's called like 764/O9A, and it goes a little bit more into depth into all this stuff. Definitely, it all glows. The origin of it, the current iteration of it, it all glows, while also clearly having some tapping into the desperation of some of the lowest among us. So 7'6" pedophile dad sentenced to 70 months in prison for tampering with son's victim. It says Michael Spitz, the father of admitted child abuser Kyle Spitz, was sentenced to 70 months in prison and 3 years of supervised release on Wednesday for tampering with one of his son's victims. The son, Kyle, was arrested in March 2024 for a slew of child abuse-related crimes stemming from him convincing minor victims online to take nude selfies, cut themselves, and commit other degrading acts. While in jail, the father, Michael, started talking to one of the victims who was 15 years old at the time. The DOJ's detention memorandum provided more details, revealing that Michael sent money to the victim to communicate with Kyle in prison. At one point, Michael asked the victim for a clean images less than 5 millibytes of herself to send to Kyle, which she sent. He also asked her to delete incriminating evidence. Michael agreed to plead guilty last December and faced 70 to 87 months in prison. In his sentencing memorandum filed 2 weeks ago, his lawyer asked for a 70-month sentence. Good fuck that guy. In asking for the lower end, the sentencing memo recounted Michael's lifelong history of drug abuse and mental health problems. Mr. Spitz's health challenges, now this is the father of Kyle, the absolute monster. Now, his health challenges have been significant and ongoing. He's been diagnosed with hepatitis B, polycythemia, irritable bowel syndrome, and high cholesterol. He also suffers from depression. He has received mental health treatment in Rockville, Maryland, and currently receives mental health services at the Laurel County Correction Center, the memorandum says. Mr. Spitz has used alcohol since a teenager and has used of marijuana daily since age 13. At 49, he became addicted to opiates. The DOJ also asked for 70 months with the added condition of 3 years supervised release. The judge granted the DOJ's request. One second. I'm sorry if I got started being slow all of a sudden. I wanted to look up the Laurel County Correctional Center because I'm like, wait, is that the or Okay. 1 second. Sorry. I'm just looking something up on the fly real quick because it kind of caught my eye. The Laurel County Correctional Center. Because I hear that here, think of Laurel County. Like we talking, okay, this is in Kentucky. So my mind went to, are they talking about in fucking, like, are they talking about in Cali? Like, what is that? Because, I mean, anyone who knows about Laurel County or, it's spooky over there in Cali. So they're not talking about that one, just similar, even has a different spelling. Sorry, not to get off topic a little bit. Meanwhile, Kyle is set to be sentenced on June 29. So Kyle, the son, the one that did the god awful shit, is set to be sentenced on June 29th after striking a deal with the Justice Department last December, agreeing to plead guilty to 4 of the 8 crimes he was originally charged for. Part of his plea agreement entails him admitting that he committed his crimes with a terroristic purpose in mind. Headline USA first reported the Spitzes in February 2024 before Kyle had been arrested. This publication had received information that Kyle, who had recently achieved internet fame when a video of his mom's boyfriend shooting him went viral, was involved in the satanic pedophile cult 764. At the time, Headline USA interviewed Michael, who defended his son, though he did confirm that Kyle was in the satanic cult 764, which is an offshoot of the Order of Nine Angles, a satanic-themed accelerationist group involved in multiple terrorist plots. Spitz said his son, who was 18 at the time, was groomed by a woman called Tara, who was nearly 20 years his senior. He was just turning 18, and that woman convinced him to move to Washington State, and she groomed him and taught him how to do all that stuff online. I hate her, Michael Spitz said at the time. But no, my son is not a pedophile. He just may be associated with some fucked up people, but he's definitely not involved in those activities. Now, I'll share I'll actually retweet the old BX tweet. That way you guys can, if you guys want to go over to my page, you can find it, and you can go down the rabbit hole of who Kyle Spitz is, what 764 is, because it is a wild rabbit hole all of its own. And it did, funny enough, start from a crazy viral video where actually people were sympathizing with Kyle, but when you look into it more, it, funny enough, makes it look like the stepdad who shot at him is actually a little bit more of a hero than you would think, perhaps. He was sick and tired of Kyle's shit, and there was a ton of shit to be had there. With that, guys, we're going to go through the chat, say our goodbyes, get on out of here. We're made decent time, not too bad. With that, let's roll the chat one more time. Sorry for all the distractions, all the throw-offs, but we made it, and we'll be back again for it next week. Let's roll the chat, say some more hellos, and then I do have an outro for you guys that I think you will enjoy, and then we'll get on out of here. So sorry about the presentation today. It was all goofy. Good morning, Nick Rivera says Michael Spitz, loser, winner swallow. Pretty good joke there. Tom says this motherfucker spitting too bad it's a Fed plant. I don't know who you were talking about there, but par for the course in this realm. All right, guys. Now, for those who want to support what I'm doing here, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers, and Twitter as well. On Twitter, that's at TerraGangJose. Everywhere else, that's the No Way Jose podcast. And if you want to support the show the best way you can, you do it with money over at patreon.com. Just No Way Jose 2020. You got the QR code right here that brings you the same place, top left-hand corner of the screen here. And over there, you get access to a whole host of episodes. We try to give you guys a whole host of perks. We try to give you guys 1 to 2 episodes per week behind the paywall. Try to keep 3 to 4 behind there at any given time. For example, I just did the weekly Wolfson, talking all about the Massey stuff just the other day. That'll drop this weekend. And then I just had Austin on last night. We did a part 2 of our Waco weirdness stuff, and we're already going to be doing a part 3. So if you're a patron, now that'll probably won't drop for like weeks from now. So if you're a patron, you get all that stuff early. You also get access to ad-free RSS feed. You get access to Telegram, to the pre-show, post-show, and video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Are You Dead?, which goes out on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I also get a big shout out to the highest level of my patrons. A big thank you for their support. I'm my previous co-host and Tower Gang, at Leonard Toad, also at Brigade D's, at ZLVRCK, at _ Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at John Klebo, big fan of the show, Torn May, at Wayne Takas, Wonder Car for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, Jacob Wintergrad, a Biblical Anarchy Podcast, and John Black, that beautiful bastard. And with that, guys, enjoy this outro. I do want to let you guys know I am going to cut it off at the 3rd verse. And It's not because I'm a pussy and oh no, they can't say no words. You guys know me. It's because, let's be real, I'm sitting on a strike right now on YouTube. They seem to be cracking down. The ISRN is upon me. There's no reason to be throwing out unnecessary slurs, especially on the last couple minutes of the show when the AI is most likely to pick it up. So, also, this is like a 3-verse song, and the last verse takes a weird racialist turn, which, I mean, I'm not like upset about it. It's kind of funny. It's whatever. But like it doesn't even really fit anyway. So just a little explanation. I think it's actually better without the last verse, that it takes the racial turn. Not saying that I'm like that's anything that's like it's bad. It just is makes more sense for the song, because you'll hear the first 2 verses. I think once you listen to this, you'll understand what I'm saying. It didn't really make much sense to take a racial angle for the last verse, considering the angle they took for the first 2. But whatever. I just want to let you know when you're like, why did it cut off abruptly? Well, it's because I don't want to get another strike. And besides, I think it's better that way anyway. It's just kind of a long thing, but that's enough hemming and hawing. I hope you guys enjoy this outro. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
"1904, Miss Helen Keller graduated cum laude. That's dumb as hell. How you gonna study for a test on Monday when you're getting finger banged in the hand by a buddy?" Polly Thompson gave her hand signs, but in a 2-man plane, and she's deaf and blind. How did Polly let her know it's her turn to fly? And I ain't the gay one for asking. That's a hell of a story, but it don't make sense how a deaf and dumb blind retard bitch, German, Latin, Greek, and French, learned them all and can't talk for shit. Then she traveled the world, taking in the sights with no damn ears and fucked up eyes, writing another bestseller, using only taste and scent. Now I'm calling bullshit.
I know every step of the road you are taking.
Now old Stephen Hawking, that's quite a dude. Couldn't walk, talk, think, or chew, but he had a little theory about a big black hole. He said, that's a huge breakthrough for the boys in science. #1 bestseller, Sunday Times. This amped up bastard can only grunt. We can say he said whatever we want. That's a hell of a story, but it don't make sense how a half-dead, paralyzed, retarded prick knew astrophysics, cosmology, quantum mechanics. Sounds gay to me. And now I'm soaring through the Milky Way, spinning on a fucking ball. There's a black hole gonna kill us all, 33.3 quadrillion light years away. And I'm not the one that's gay.
There is no God. No one created the universe, and no one directs our fate. There is probably no heaven, but no afterlife either.
Martin